Hello, friends. Thanks for tuning into this week's Brain Food. This week's Brain Food is an idea a reminder from a good friend and client named Catherine over at Direct Trust. And we were talking recently, and we were talking about the idea of perfect is expensive, good enough might be the right answer. And so I'm going to talk about that today. But before I do that, I wanted to mention if you stick around to the end of the video, I was gone last week doing a scuba trip in Cozumel with my brother, Mike, and my good friend Scott. And so if you stick around to the end of the video, I'll share some pictures and maybe some video of that trip with you. But let me talk about this brain food first. And thanks again, Catherine, for the idea. This has been a theme through my whole career where you can develop a new system or a process. Let's say you're implementing a CRM system at your company and you're spending all of this time and energy trying to get it right before you launch it. And this is a very common thing that happens at companies. And there is some value, and it's important to at least take some time, do some user testing, make sure you're capturing most of the stuff that you're trying to get accomplished with launching a new CRM. But you also don't want to spend 9 months on it and then roll it out and realize that it's not what you needed because you needed it to be used by your users so you could really figure out what needed to be done. And it's just one of those things where you can spend a lot of time, energy, and money on something waiting to roll it out until it's perfect when you might have just rolled it out earlier on, or at least in a pilot stage, and gotten a lot of value out of trying it, just getting it to market faster, getting the contract to your client faster, trying a new system faster, doing the beta of it instead of planning a bunch of stuff and then figuring out how you're going to pay for it all. And instead of doing a new app for your website or something like that, maybe do a small version and add on to it later instead of this sweeping scope of all these things that you could be doing, trying to make something perfect before you launch it or use it in your company. So that was my idea for the brain food this week, is that perfect is very expensive and it's also very stressful for the people that are involved. And for me, what I've always tried to do is take a stab at something. A lot of times when I'm the pond that I play in, I kind of know what the answer should be and a lot of the questions that come up and things that I need to try and do. So I know generally the direction I should be heading when a challenge hits me. It's more important for me to try something and see how it works than to plan on doing something and never getting it done and never using this new thing. One of my future tech tips is going to be this new feature in Zoom that puts these nice little AI name tags in your Zoom video feed. And I just started using it. I just hooked it up, uploaded my logo, set some settings, and started using it. I didn't plan for that. I just started using it very quickly and liked the end result. And I actually worked on it 2 or 3 different times until I was really happy with the result. So look forward to that future tech tip on how to do that within Zoom meetings. But anyway, my point is, the simple idea is make sure that you are getting something to market or getting it to your client sooner as opposed to later, and not planning too much, because perfect is expensive. Good enough is often good enough. So that's the brain food this week. All right, so now I'm going to switch into the Cozumel stuff for those of you that want to stick around and see a little bit about my dive trip last week. You know, one of the things people ask about Cozumel quite a bit, and they say, what's so cool about diving in Cozumel? I've heard it's great, but what's the big deal? So a lot of people don't realize, if you've never done scuba diving, that the way it mechanically works is you get into the water and then you swim around and look at stuff, and then you come up after 45 minutes or an hour of diving. The cool thing about Cozumel is that it's got current, right? There's current. It's called drift diving. And so you get dropped in by the boat way ahead of the current, up the current, and then the current brings you through a coral reef and swim-throughs and looking at all this stuff for 45 minutes to an hour. And then the boat picks you up at the end of the dive. And yes, it's almost like you're caught in a storm or tornado. It's not usually that fast, but it can get pretty fast. The current can get pretty strong. So you have to kind of know what you're doing a little bit more than just a brand new open water diver. So we went to Cozumel, and the coral's beautiful. There's a great wreck dive that they have set up there. There's swim-throughs through the coral. There's great night diving to be done when everything comes out to feed. Hopefully not on the divers. It's not scary. We're in 30 to 40 feet of water, so the big stuff usually isn't, and it's warm water, so the big stuff isn't there. It's going to be things like lobster and crab and eels and octopus and things like that. And so I'll put some pictures up of the boat and the resort that we stayed in, Scuba Club Cozumel. And we were there for a week. And we took Wednesday off to go to Playa to take the ferry across to Playa del Carmen. And we hung out there, had some lunch, all kinds of stuff, shopping, that kind of stuff in Playa to take a dive break. Because as you dive day after day, your ears can get tired because you're clearing. It's a bunch of technical stuff about scuba diving, but your ears can get tired after you've been diving for a few days in a row. We did 14 dives in 5 days and had a great time. Good food. Loved spending time with Mike and Scott, my brother Mike and my good friend Scott. And there were some crazy storms in the evenings. I have never seen lightning so bright and so powerful. It was kind of scary a couple times. I know that sounds kind of squeamish of me, but it was intense, guys. I'm telling you, like the whole sky lit up with spider lightning all over the place, and it was pounding across the water in Playa. You could see multiple strikes hitting land, and the locals aren't used to seeing a lot of lightning, so this was a big deal, and it was over a course of a few days. And we even did one of our night dives during lightning, and it was crazy seeing the ocean floor light up for a couple seconds when a strike was going on somewhere overhead. And for those of you that are concerned about diving while it's lightning, as long as you're 15 feet or deeper, the rule of thumb is that as long as you're 15 feet or deeper, you're going to be fine because the electricity dissipates at the surface. And the dive operators aren't going to let you dive in the middle of a lightning storm, so the lightning was happening many miles away. So that was good, and we had a great time during that trip. So hopefully during this whole thing I've been talking about, I've been putting up different pictures of the scuba trip and how much fun we had. Well, again, thank you for tuning into this week's Brain Food, and I will see you next week. Have a great week.